Hello everyone! Today I'm going to share my thoughts on 4 adaptations of Pygmalion. Pygmalion is the famous play by George Bernard Shaw, which takes its title from the Greek myth of Pygmalion and Galatea. Set in London, phonetics expert Professor Henry Higgins makes a bet that he can take a Cockney flower girl, Eliza Doolittle, out of the gutter and transform her into a lady. But once he's fooled society and won his bet, what's to become of the girl? Shaw's play, first written in 1913, debuted on the West End in 1914 and became a sensation. There have been a few noteworthy adaptations, a German one in 1935, a Dutch one in 1937. In 1938, the British adapted it to film with additional dialogue, mostly written by Shaw. In 1956, it was adapted by Alan J. Lerner and Frederick Loewe into a hit musical play titled My Fair Lady, and that was adapted into a musical film in 1964. That film, like it or not, Pygmalion fans, is the most widely known adaptation of Shaw's play. However, for simplicity's sake and my own sanity, I've decided not to include it in this discussion. I have talked about it a couple times in past videos. I'm very fond of it. I love a lot of the music, and really, it's a fine adaptation that includes a good deal of Shaw's dialogue, just with songs in between. Unfortunately, introducing My Fair Lady into the conversation tends to open up a whole other can of worms, and I've noticed on other channels that when this happens, things tend to get nasty. I don't want nasty. So, to keep it simple, in this video I'll stick to these 4 non-musical adaptations, the 1973, 1981, and 1983 productions that were broadcast on British television, and the 1938 film. You can watch all of these adaptations on YouTube. I've put links in the description. I am no expert on Pygmalion. While I did read the play once, and I've seen the 38 film a couple times, I admit most of my familiarity comes from My Fair Lady. But though I haven't studied the play, and I'm not a fan of Bernard Shaw himself, I do enjoy the language, the wit, the dynamics between the characters, and the social questions. 3 things I tend to focus on when I watch any adaptation of Pygmalion are, number 1, the lead actor's interpretation of Higgins. Is he likable at all, or just a selfish jerk? Number 2, the presence or absence of any kind of chemistry between Eliza and Higgins. And number 3, what do they do with the ending? Despite the public clamoring for it, Shaw was determined that Higgins and Eliza would not end up together. However, a new ending, not authorized by Shaw, was added for the 38 film. That's the ending My Fair Lady used, and much to Pygmalion purists' chagrin, that's the ending most people know. One more note, there are discrepancies regarding the definitive text. There's the original, there are Shaw's early revisions, and there's the 38 script, which contains familiar lines and scenes that are often mistakenly considered canon. Their absence in a production may make you think you're watching an abridged version, a truncated version, when that production is really just following the original text. The play's tricky like that. Without further ado, here are my comments on these 4 Pygmalion adaptations. First, the 1973 TV production starring Lynn Redgrave and James Villiers. This one runs nearly 2 hours, and it follows the play very closely, but I found it kind of lukewarm. Lynn Redgrave gives a fine performance as Eliza Doolittle. Sometimes I thought she was very good.
Are you walking across the park, Miss Doolittle?
Walk? Not bloody likely. I am going in a taxi.
But there were other times when I felt the performance was kind of paint by numbers. Everything's as it should be, and in a way her Eliza feels even sadder and more downtrodden than others. Yet, for some reason, I came away slightly underwhelmed. James Villiers, I thought I didn't know until I heard him speak, and then I realized I knew him from the 1982 version of The Scarlet Pimpernel. I have seen him in other things, but he'll always be that guy. His Higgins is a particularly cold, irascible, selfish man. Quite a beanpole at 6'4", and the undignified way he lounges all over the place and towers over people helps emphasize his disregard for society in general.
I've picked up a girl.
Does that mean some girl has picked you up?
Not at all.
What
I don't mean a
pity.
love affair.
What a pity.
Why?
Well, you never seem to fall in love with anyone under 45. When will you discover there are some rather nice-looking young women about?
Oh, I can't be bothered with young women.
Despite the harshness of his characterization, though, Villiers still turns in a fun, humorous performance.
Henry, please, don't sit on my writing table, you'll break it.
Sorry, Mother.
There's barely any warmth between him and Eliza, to the extent that some of his admissions in the final showdown feel either insincere or completely shallow and self-serving. I really didn't get a feeling of any friendship there. He just wants her to come back to Wimpole Street to be housekeeper, secretary, and second mother rolled into one. Speaking of mothers, I enjoyed the mother here and thought the scenes in her home stood out as the best. This one does make a unique choice for the ending. They show a photo of Eliza and Freddie's wedding with all the principals present, including an irritated Higgins. It is a funny choice, it's unusual. I'm not sure how I feel about it. This is not a bad adaptation. I found it a little slow in spots, a little less inspiring, and I felt it didn't do anything exceptional, but there are plenty of other things it does very well.
I dare say my mother could find you some chap or other who'd do very well.
We were above that at the corner of Tottenham Court Road.
What do you mean?
I sold flowers. I didn't sell myself. Now you've made a lady of me, I'm not fit to sell anything else.
Oh, tosh, Eliza, don't insult human relations by dragging in all this cant about buying and selling. If you don't love the fella, you needn't marry him.
And what else am I to
Well,
do?
lots of things.
Second, the 1981 TV production starring Twiggy and Robert Powell. This one runs only 90 minutes. Twiggy's most known for her modeling career, but I really like her as Eliza Doolittle. Her naturalness is appealing. She's a sassy young woman with a brassy exterior, but she's also very sensitive.
I dare say my mother could find some chap or other who'd do very well.
We were above that at the corner of Tottenham Court Road.
What do you mean?
I sold flowers. I didn't sell myself. Now you've made a lady of me, I'm not fit to sell anything else.
Oh, tosh, Eliza. Don't insult human relations by dragging all this cant about buying and selling into it. You needn't marry the fellow if you don't like him.
What else am I to do?
Oh, lots of things.
As Higgins, Robert Powell brings a sense of excitement. He displays energy and eagerness instead of cranky lethargy. At his mother's, he's downright boyish.
I picked up a girl.
Does that mean some girl picked you up?
Not at all. I don't mean a love affair.
Oh, what a pity.
He's quick with his insults, but he delivers them with grace, and the way he persuades Eliza to move in is less bullying, more seductive. But not in a sexy way, at least I didn't think so. It's not implying anything like that, but do you know what I mean? Ronald Fraser plays Colonel Pickering in both the 1973 and 1981 adaptations, and I wasn't thrilled about that. His performance is fine, but I found his curlicue style of speaking distracting and hard to understand. Judging by the comments, I wasn't the only one. A fun bit of trivia, Mrs. Pierce is played by Mona Washburn, who 17 years earlier played the role in My Fair Lady. She's exactly the same here, and I enjoyed the exchange where she chides Higgins for his bad language. I particularly like this Alfred P. Doolittle, played by Arthur English. I enjoy the way he delivers his monologues with that rough lyricism that catches Higgins' ear. There is tension between this Eliza and this Higgins. I'm not sure what kind, if it's unspoken attraction or not, but there's something there, and the concept isn't repulsive. Powell's Higgins is still likable even when he's rude. He's both amusing and amused, and I can't help being charmed by him. As for her, I like the way Twiggy embodies Eliza at each stage of development, and I love her in the final scene at the Mother's, where she fights tooth and nail to maintain her composure. This version opts for the original ending, where Eliza firmly exits, while Higgins leans back and laughs. I do find it a bit inconclusive, but it works, and it is the original.
Are you walking across the park, Miss Doolittle? If so...
Walk? Not bloody likely. I am going in a taxi.
Third, the 1983 TV production starring Peter O'Toole and Margot Kidder. This one is an hour 50, just a few minutes shorter than the 73 version, and it has some absolutely awful music. It's circusy, and there are these obnoxious music cues. It's a terrible fit. Going into this, I thought Peter O'Toole was ideally cast, and I found him refreshingly vigorous in Act 1. He puts his own spin on the dialogue, and I applaud the originality. But as the play progressed, and his performance became more exaggerated, I soured on it. His gestures are huge, he shouts as if he's trying to reach the back row, and he really leans on Higgins' bad manners and slovenliness. It's like he doubles down on Higgins' worst qualities and becomes aggressively eccentric, shouting, jumping around the set, hopping on the furniture. It's just too much, especially for this medium. Maybe if I saw it live, I would feel differently.
I've picked up a girl.
Does that mean that some girl has picked you up?
Not at all. I don't mean a love affair.
What a pity.
Why?
Well, you never fall in love with anyone under 45. When will you discover that there are some rather attractive young women about?
Well, I can't be bothered with young women. My idea of a lovable woman is somebody as like you as possible. I shall never get into the way of really liking young women. Some habits lie too deep to be changed. Besides, they're all idiots.
As for Margot Kidder, who was also a co-producer, I suspect she was aware British audiences would be skeptical of an American as Eliza Doolittle, so she worked extra hard to prove herself, and I think she does quite well, especially in the last 2 acts. Physically, she looks right, her thin, pointy features suggestive of hard living. Her face shows both strength and vulnerability. She has no lack of self-respect, but she is easily wounded. Her Cockney accent may sound questionable to discerning ears, but in that case it's just as well Eliza's coached out of it so that Kidder's acting can shine in the second half. She also holds her own against O'Toole, which is saying something.
I dare say my mother could think of some chap or other who'd do very well.
We're above that at the corner of Tottenham Court Road.
What do you mean?
I sold flowers. I didn't sell myself. Now that you have made a lady of me, I'm not fit to sell anything else. I wish you had left me where you found me.
Tosh, Eliza, don't insult human relations by bringing all this cant about buying and selling into it. You needn't marry the chap if you don't like him.
And what else am I to do?
Lots of things.
You can tell they've rehearsed well, and I like some of the blocking. But I don't like certain physical choices they made. My least favorite is when Higgins pops the chocolate and his finger into her mouth and then taps it against her lips. I'm sorry, that was disgusting. I really liked John Standing's younger Colonel Pickering. He has good comic timing and enjoys a true sense of camaraderie with both Higgins and Eliza. This version has a Scottish Mrs. Pierce, and the part of Mrs. Higgins is played nicely by Frances Hyland. It's not obvious that she's just 5 years older than O'Toole. What's weird is how O'Toole interacts with her, more like a lover than a son. Another strange choice that I didn't like at all. One of the biggest scenes is Mrs. Higgins at home, and Higgins is climbing all over the furniture, leaping around like an 8-year-old, and honestly, I wondered if he was drunk. There's this bit he does where he's ridiculously clumsy, he's got butterfingers, and the physical comedy is funny, but it's too much, it's too goofy. The scene's humorous enough without adding slapstick. I also think Kidder is a shade too robotic here, but she nails her parting line.
Are you walking across the park, Miss Doolittle? If so...
Walk? Not bloody likely. I'm going in a taxi.
And the longer the play runs, the better she gets. I believe her when she says she'd like to kill Higgins. In a way, I think I'd like to kill him too. And then in the final act, when he says he'd like to wring her neck, O'Toole actually lunges at her, pushing her back on the sofa and almost completing the action. The scene's well acted, but it's not pleasant, and it's a relief when Eliza walks out on him. Not for one instant did I feel any desire for them to end up together. I had mixed feelings about this version, and I noticed a lot of disagreement in the comments. Plenty of people loved O'Toole's performance, but there were also critical reviews. You have to scroll down for them, because I think all the O'Toole fans disliked them. Some people complained about the casting of an American in such a quintessentially British role, speaking of Eliza Doolittle, but many declared this the most faithful to Shaw's text, so... Regarding whether or not O'Toole was intoxicated, one person claimed that he'd quit drinking in the 70s, therefore he couldn't have been drunk here, and it was actually diabetes that was giving him trouble. Then I did a little research myself, and yes, he did quit drinking in 1975 after he'd had to have most of his stomach removed. He was plagued with health problems, so he probably was not drunk here, and maybe physical discomfort was a factor. I read that he did substitute cocaine for alcohol, so he may not have been sober, but who knows, maybe this was just O'Toole's natural flamboyance. It is very likely. Fourth, the 1938 film starring Leslie Howard and Wendy Hiller, which was directed by Anthony Asquith. Actually, credit is shared by Asquith and Leslie Howard. This one runs an hour and 38 minutes, so it's just a smidge longer than the 1981 production. It's very like the others, except in black and white, with costumes altered slightly to fit a more contemporary setting. Wendy Hiller was a treat in everything she did, and this is no exception. Apparently she was handpicked by Shaw, and her fiery performance propelled her to stardom.
Excuse me, Miss Doolittle, but would you be walking across the park? Because if so,
Walk? Not bloody likely. I'm going in a taxi.
Leslie Howard gives my favorite performance of his abbreviated career. His Higgins is a staid bachelor, very comfortable in his position, pleased to spend most of the day in his dressing gown, doing whatever he likes, beholden to no one. Comparing this performance to some others, especially O'Toole's, this Higgins feels toned down. He's eccentric, but he's not a madman, and though he says outrageous things, he doesn't do it in an outrageous way. It helps that Howard had beautiful mastery of the English language, so his insults have an elegance that belies the harshness of their meaning. Again, we have a Scottish Mrs. Pierce, and again, I love the scene where she admonishes Higgins for his swearing and bad manners. This Pickering is a courteous older gentleman who is vastly entertained by Higgins' irreverent observations, and this is the only version where I thought the idea of Eliza marrying Pickering had any weight to it and wasn't just something thrown out in the heat of an argument. I adore Marie Lore as Mrs. Higgins, who demonstrates tremendous forbearance and a sense of humor where her son's concerned.
I picked up a girl.
You mean a girl has picked you up?
Oh, no. This isn't a love affair.
Oh, what a pity.
Why?
You never fall in love with anyone under 45.
Oh, I can't waste my time with young women. They're all such idiots anyhow.
You know what you'd do if you really loved me, Henry?
Get married, I suppose.
No. Stop fidgeting. And take your hands out of your pockets. Don't sit on that table. You'll break it.
The at-home sequence is wonderfully done, with Eliza's daintily spoken but completely inappropriate announcements made even funnier because of everyone's reactions. There are a number of added scenes, a quick one of Eliza at home, Mrs. Pierce forcing her to take a bath, Freddie calling at Wimpole Street and being turned away, a montage of arduous preparations for the ambassador's reception, and a new 15-minute sequence for their reception itself. I understand the practicality of leaving this part out of the play, but it is nice to see Eliza's success instead of hearing about it. And I find that witnessing the event myself makes it even more egregious how Higgins and Pickering completely overlook her when they get back.
I dare say my mother could find some chap or other who'll do very well.
We were above that in Covent Garden.
What do you mean?
I sold flowers. I didn't sell myself.
Now you've made a lady of me, I'm not fit to sell anything else. I wish you'd left me where you found me.
But you don't have to marry the fellow if you don't like him.
What else am I to do?
Well, lots of things.
There's a poignant note when Eliza runs into another flower girl, presumably a friend of hers, who momentarily recognizes her. For a split second, it's like she's seeing herself as she was, seeing the past that she can't go back to, and she's unsure what to do or how to feel. It's quick, but it's a lovely little addition, and one of many additions that were included in the film version of My Fair Lady. And then the final showdown is perfect. The performances are excellent, bolstered by expert editing, camera work, lighting, etc., all the benefits of film. Now, having just watched the original ending, done 3 different ways, this crowd-pleasing revision where Eliza comes back does stick in my craw. I agree with critics that it just doesn't feel right for the characters, and it's not satisfying. My Fair Lady uses this ending, and in that case, I feel better about it. And I think it's a matter of timing and emotion. The period between the confrontation at the mother's house and then this new ending back at Wimpole Street is stretched out. Higgins walks home, and he has his epiphany. I've grown accustomed to her face. I love that number. And in that space of time, I figure Eliza's doing her own self-examination. And so the timing feels more logical. Having the song in there just gets us to the right point. And then the way things play out in the musical, the final line, Eliza, where the devil are my slippers, just hits differently. I don't know, the ending just works better there than in the 38 film, where it's the one sticking point in an otherwise flawless adaptation. But even with that, I consider the 38 movie the definitive version of Pygmalion. It does make a surprising number of changes to the original text, yet it's basically the gold standard. And then, among these 3 other adaptations I've discussed here, and I know there are more, the 1981 version also stands out. It tweaks the dialogue too, but I found it highly enjoyable. Each version has something going for it, though. There are some choices I prefer over others, but there isn't one that makes me say, ugh, this version of Pygmalion stinks. They're all worthy adaptations. I hope you enjoyed this video. You can find links to the different adaptations I discussed in the description, and I hope you'll check them out for yourself if you haven't seen them before and they sound interesting to you, and then you can come back and share what you think. I'll be back next Saturday with a new video. Until then, thanks for watching.